Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv Wolok, my new host of the show, Vasili, Gianarakos. See, I said that without hesitations that time, and
You got
that
it
one
this
felt
time,
good.
man.
Yeah. How you
Honestly, the
doing?
last couple times, pretty good. Yariv, how are you?
Doing well, man. Yeah, I know. I'm getting better.
Yeah,
Eventually,
exactly. There's progress, right?
yeah,
It's almost like Mike Yo system
yeah.
progress.
I'll just call you Vasili G eventually, just to not even
Exactly.
worry about it.
You don't even
And
need to worry about the last name after a while.
yeah, totally. And returning guest, and obviously another member of Flyers Nitty Gritty, but also he's got his own thing going on. You guys have seen him with me a bunch of times. You've seen us on our own podcast, Don't Panic. Chris Maher. Chris, welcome back, buddy.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. This
Oh
is
yeah.
our holiday showcase, and I did write a name for this episode. We'll see if I change it, but my name for the episode is it's a COVID holiday break, and I think that is quite appropriate
Pretty
for
fitting.
for what we're looking at. So as we stand right now, the Flyers were supposed to play a couple games. They were supposed to play last night against the Capitals, and they were supposed to play tomorrow. We're recording this on the Wednesday. What is it, 22nd? Yeah. So they were supposed to play against the Capitals and then the Penguins, and both games have now been postponed due to COVID. Games around the league have been postponed. The Phantoms game I just saw got postponed as well. Reality is that like I think there's a rumor that things might be postponed even till the new year. I heard that. I don't know if that's true, but not that surprising. Vasily, what do you think about the break? And then Chris, you respond as well.
I mean, ultimately, I think the break is actually a good thing for the Flyers. They come off, 4-0-1 stretch. You get 9 points in the available 10 that they could have got. So obviously that's successful. Maybe you would have liked to see the process better along those 9 points, but still 9 out of 10 points. I mean, you'll take that probably all day, especially from where this team was. With the COVID break, I think it's a good time to break for the Flyers just because they were going into facing two pretty, highly skilled teams in Washington and the Penguins. And the Penguins are really on a burner of a win streak, or they were before this break. And now you kind of come into the break afterwards against, the Kraken. You're going to get San Jose in there, Anaheim. So not to say that those teams aren't good, because Anaheim's actually been much improved this season, but I'd say less quality of an opponent than Washington and Pittsburgh. Maybe a little bit more time for the Flyers to work the kinks out in terms of their process, and then maybe string together some more wins, get themselves feeling good about where their game is at, and then once they get back into playing Eastern Conference teams, they're really ready to go.
Yeah, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, kind of just to echo what Vasily said. I mean, overall, I think there's them having 8 days off is perfect for them. If they're able to kind of use that week to their advantage, and obviously me and Yuri were talking about this last night. If they're able to use that to their advantage, have a couple days off. Obviously, they can't start practicing till I think it was 2:00 on the 26th. So if they're able to start there and have a couple days before they fly out to Seattle and use that to their advantage, and then before that you're able to have a couple days with your family and kind of escape hockey for a few days, and the Flyers have been playing well, and obviously they need points and they'll take as many as they can get. So I mean, I think for the way that they've played, and it's unfortunate because I would have liked to seen them get another game in, but they also are able to get some guys healthy, and you might see some guys come back as obviously Jones was supposed to start against Washington, so hopefully Carter Hart can come back and not have the illness, and maybe some of these guys like Frost, Woolman, Hayes, maybe even can come off the COVID protocol.
Yeah.
We might see them later in the month as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Vasily, you were mentioning the Penguins on a tear. They're on a 7-game win streak. So I don't think we could have asked for anything better than a red hot team having to take their foot off the pedal. Because like while we are 4-0-1, I mean, 7 wins in a row is very impressive. And the worst part of it, when you're looking at it, like they have a game in hand on the Flyers. They're at 39 points. Flyers are at 29 points. They're 17-8-5. Flyers are 12-12-5. The Flyers even just went 500 on that 10-game losing streak. Like literally 500, like not a good record. They'd be tied with the Penguins. It's like literally they couldn't have dug themselves a bigger hole in that 10-game stretch where like if they just played half decent, we would literally be in a playoff spot right now.
Because that's the thing. Like it wasn't even the fact that they were losing the games. Like you remember when they had the 10-game losing streak a few years back? Like they were at least in the game. Like these games, they were getting killed.
There's not even competitive, right? And the thing that, I think we were talking about this last week too, and it's kind of crazy because if they would have just, let's say out of like 5 games went to overtime and got 5 points, they would likely, they would be in a playoff spot right now or fairly close. So
I think they'd actually be in the wild card at this exact
they'd be in a wild card position.
So just to get just to even push those to overtime, it just shows that they weren't even competitive during that stretch. And you can't go, in such a competitive division like the Metro and in the NHL 0-10 and not, and not have there be consequences for that, right? So I mean, they've dug their own hole, as you said, Yariv, and they have to find their way out of it. And like we were saying, the break comes at the perfect time because you have the opportunity to maybe get Hayes back, Frost back, Willman back, Broussard likely should be back as well. And then hopefully Ellis is closer because he's really the main piece in my eyes to kind of getting the defense back to where it should be.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about those injuries for a second, actually, because like you look at what's missing, you guys mentioned them already, right? But Frost, Willman, Hayes, Broussard, now Allison out, most likely long-term again. And then Ellis is out. I mean, that's a significant amount of talent that the Flyers have lost. Compile that with the fact that they were playing poorly. It just sucks. And if they actually take this break and, Chris, we talked about this yesterday, but like if Mike Yeo can take this break and strategize, come up with a plan, we obviously were banged up. We know Couturier has been banged up, right? Like he didn't even show up to the last practice, and Fletcher kind of just admitted that he's playing through injuries, which we kind of suspected. I'm glad he said something, honestly.
Yeah.
Because
so am I.
Yeah, because
people can stop hating on like the fact that Sean Couturier is not a good player anymore. If you just look at Twitter.
You know how many people messaged me who were like, "Oh, clearly, he's on the decline," and I'm like,
"Yeah,
he's literally in his prime.
Sure.
He's literally in his prime."
Well, I'm gonna draw a comparison.
What, a season off of Vasili?
Yeah,
I mean,
season and a half, I guess.
Well, I was just gonna say a comparison to like that season where Giroux had the double core surgery, had 57 points, everybody thought he was terrible, and then he comes back and scores 102 points the next season. That's the comparison I'm gonna make there.
I mean, last night when Chris and I were recording, and I don't want to pick on anybody, but I saw like you got to get rid of Hayes and JVR, and it's funny how like Hayes is now looped in with JVR, even though like reality is double core muscle surgery, like.
Yeah.
And props to Jamie Baskow, who was trying very hard to make everybody who follows our site aware of this. Like he wrote an article about it. He's been saying over and over again. For those of you who expected Kevin Hayes to come in and light the world on fire this year,
not how it works.
It was never gonna happen. So those who think like he's on the decline or is much, it's
especially
just
with
a guy
him losing
60%.
too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say as well.
And that adds to it. And oh my God.
Look, I lost my dad. I've mentioned it before. I lost my dad almost 4 years ago now, like 3.5 years ago. And literally I was fucked up for an entire year. Imagine losing your brother who's part of the game, who's part of the community, and literally every single person around you knows. Like it's probably on his mind all the time. Plus throw in the, you know what I mean? The surgery
on top of that.
And then the 10-game losing streak, like,
and then COVID and then COVID now.
That for him.
Like it's been a hell of a year for him, like in a bad way. So I'm just hoping the second half we see like more positives for Hayes. He gets to stay healthy and can just contribute in the spaces he's in, because I actually like how we were speaking about this last week as well, but Yo hasn't shown a hesitancy to move Giroux back to center. Not that AV did. He's done that before when he was the coach. But having Giroux slot in as 2C and then Hayes with that double core surgery at 3C, I think that puts him in the position best to succeed, because off those surgeries, I mean, he's a 2C when he's healthy, but with those surgeries, I would say he's not very close. But in that 3C position, just the way he's playing now, I think that's the perfect place to have him.
Yeah, and let me ask you, and we brought this up over and over again, like, what other option do you have? Like, I just want to go back to when Hayes was out, okay?
Yeah.
You're out of center already, right? You're out your number 2, okay? You traded Nolan Patrick in the offseason, right? Obviously, he's still dealing with his own issues. Broussard was never brought in here to play center, though I do think he did an admirable job where he was. You have Scott Lawton, who you didn't want as a center for some reason. But like literally those were the decisions that the coaches made, where it's like, our second best center, arguably our best offensive center, is like relegated to the wing, and it's like not an option to put him in the middle. Yeah. He's also your best face-off guy.
That too, exactly.
Yeah, and he's dominant, and I mean,
he is a center.
And it's weird how they are one of the best. Like, and that was the other problem too, is that they were one of the best face-off teams, and they have been for years. But especially recently, they've been one of the best face-off teams, and their time of possession is so low because once they lose the draw, they can't get the puck back.
Yeah,
and that was part of the issue as well. But yeah, I mean,
killer.
The fact that they just, I mean, again, we talked about this last night. It's not surprising that all these guys are scoring, and it's not surprising that as soon as a guy leaves, Lindblom goes to the fourth line. Sanheim's got 7 points in 7 games. Ristolainen has one of his best offensive games in a while because they're able to take chances now, unlike when they were before. Yeah, I mentioned Sanheim.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah. I mean, they've, the guys have been able to take chances, and it's been going in for them, and that's the thing. I mean, realistically, I don't think, to me at this point, I don't know really what else I can look for from this team because they need wins. You know what I mean? Like I'm not. Yeah, I mean, and obviously they've been playing better, but like the overall process has been better. It has been great.
No,
but like.
Right.
We've seen some things,
a couple games. Sorry to cut you off, but a couple games it was great.
Yeah,
but it's been average.
There's signs of them turning the corner. Like, I'd be more concerned if, let's say, they were winning these games by sheer luck. Which, I mean, you could kind of say maybe the Ottawa game, they had a great first period and they kind of lucked themselves into the win. But also, like, that's just how hockey goes. You're not going to dominate. You're not going to dominate 60 minutes, right? So, like, they had their chances. I would think that. From this point, you build off that, right? That's what you want to get the message across. If you're Mike, look at us, or he's going to say to the team, I mean, look at how we performed in the first period against Ottawa. Let's try to replicate that, next game for 2 periods. And then the next game, let's try to replicate that for 3 periods. And it all goes back to habits. And that's what he was kind of mentioning in the press conference after the Ottawa game is they're trying to build habits where, if a team does turn the tables on them, gets the momentum, that they don't panic, and there's no panic on the bench, and they aren't, running around in their own zone, almost like the name of the podcast you guys were doing yesterday. But I mean, you want to see them obviously start to do that, and I think they're on their way to doing it. We just have to see it executed in the games more, and hopefully we see that coming up in the stretch against Seattle and Anaheim and San Jose. Like I said before, they are teams that aren't as highly skilled. So if you're going to be working on process, I think those are the best kind of teams to face, right, while you're getting your game sorted out. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I'm looking at it, when I look back at that Montreal game, that first period was brutal. I mean, they essentially handed the Canadians 20 minutes.
Hart kept them in it.
Yeah, and then when you look at the game against Ottawa, it's pretty rare when you held a team, when you're able to hold a team shotless through the first, almost 15 minutes of a period. That's very rare.
It's exceptional.
And that's not going to happen a lot of the time. But the one thing you don't want to see is when a team does that is when you give up a 2-goal lead not even 5 minutes into the next period in the opening frame. So it's like, that's the part of the process that's like, okay, now we just shot ourselves in the foot, because we've seen that many times. They shot themselves in the foot, and I mean, if that wasn't one of the main chimes from last season, I don't know what was. But yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a lot of things that have kind of stepped in the right direction for them. Obviously, they've had the goaltending throughout all of this, and that's been the one surprising thing. Well, I guess you shouldn't say surprising, but
well, to that point, not to derail you, but to that point, when a team is playing poorly, a lot of times the goaltending suffers. I think that's what you're trying to say, and yet it's still held up, and that includes Jones as well.
Yes, exactly. And it kind of felt like, that last game, if the Flyers were able to, win that, because that was an important game for them, because Ottawa isn't as light of a team as people think. Like, their record, and their record doesn't necessarily show what they are. Like, that previous record of them,
they just came off an 8-2. They just came off an 8-2 win against the Florida.
They beat Tampa. I believe they might have beat Colorado too.
They beat Tampa 4-0. Colorado, I believe, 5-2 or 6-3, something like that.
Those are top
Florida
teams.
8-2 in Florida. They have a win against Carolina. And that's another thing that's kind of weird with the Flyers too, is they had a 10-game losing streak, but they had wins against Boston, Edmonton, Carolina, Washington.
Yeah.
there's only really one team in the NHL that's devoid of talent, and that's the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah.
Like Montreal is significantly underperformed, but they're better than their record. Their away record is 2-11-2, which is.
And then if you added Price in, they'd probably be a lot better too. So.
Right, absolutely. Which I think he actually is.
He's skating.
He's potentially coming back. But Weber will not be back, which is probably why they fired their GM or whatever.
No, but I think it just speaks to consistency. Like, like not to go back to that, I think it's been a kind of overarching theme of just this team and maybe their struggles the past seasons. And even this season is you see them, it's a Jekyll and Hyde thing where you see them come out and play the best period of their season, like against Ottawa, and they come out and completely kind of shit the bed in the second. So it's just a consistency thing. Is that based on the habits that, Mike Yo's trying to build, like he was saying, to be more consistent and kind of not take your foot off the gas, even if it is a team again like Ottawa, maybe the players can think they can kind of overlook after being up 2-0. At this point, I don't think they have been afforded the opportunity to overlook any team just based on that 10-game losing streak. They got to play every game like it's a playoff game because all the wins at this point matter. Every single point matters. It could be the difference between them getting back to the playoff race or not. So I just think that's the major thing that, I'd like to see Yo kind of develop with the process is ensuring that, okay, you're going to have a bad period here and there, but like your whole game can't fall apart. There has to be a level of consistency where, okay, if we're going to have a bad period, it's not going to get worse than a certain level of bad. If you understand what I mean.
No, absolutely. And let's point to the Phantoms for a second, because I think your point is very valid. And this is what I talk about all the time, which I feel like I'm always in the minority in this, where I talk about it's not a talent issue. It's a talent issue to win a championship. Yeah. Winning a championship is a talent issue. Being competitive is, in my opinion, most of the time is not, unless you're like literally tanking, which is what Arizona is doing, where you're trading off all your veterans and all your best players. Typically, like most teams in the league that are like average, like the Flyers are, they have the ability to kind of move up and down that lineup. Look at the Phantoms. Okay. Would you say that the Phantoms on paper are better now, or were they better in the beginning of the season on paper? On paper, they were better in the beginning of the season. They don't have Frost. They don't have their best player, who still, I think, leads the team in points. Yeah. Max Willman is with the Flyers.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's how well he was playing. Max Willman is with the Flyers, right? Yeah. Allison came in for a little bit. He's back out, right? Like they lost Forrester.
Didn't Samola get hurt last night? Didn't Samola get hurt last night?
He got hurt for a bit. I think he was going on a 2-on-1 dive to make a play and then stayed on the bench. So
okay. Well, good thing we have a break.
Yeah.
Well, my point is this, is that the Phantoms
also
are
Wisdom.
They're on Wisdom as well, which I think he's going to be playing in juniors pretty soon, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So but the point is that,
I think he already started playing.
Well, they improved their performances. Like they're playing much better with less talent. And I was always planning on being more patient with the Phantoms, even though they were not doing well, just because I'm like, it's a coach that's never been a head coach before, 2 new coaches added to the organization as well. They
also younger players too.
Yeah,
right?
They have a really young team this season,
and a bunch of new players, right? Yeah. So now their process is starting to work out, right? And you can literally look at it and be like, okay, now they're starting to actually play to their talent level, which they're probably still not like a championship caliber team, especially missing all these guys. If they had Lazinski and Allison and Frost and they had all these guys, I'm sure that they would be considered more of a championship caliber team in that level. They're probably not going to be a championship caliber team, but they're now playing respectable. And that's what I see with the Flyers is they were not playing to their talent level. The process wasn't there. Like the Ryan Ellis thing, right? We all want to see Ryan Ellis back. You're crazy if you don't, right?
Yeah.
But the team still should be pretty good without him.
It should be at least average, not losing 10 games in a row.
You should have an average defense. You're not supposed to be minus 18. If you're +2, minus 7-1. Right.
Yeah.
Right. That is a process issue. This team is not devoid of talent. And you can make the same case about the Islanders, right? I know the Islanders have a big injury as well. I think it's one of the defensemen.
Injuries.
Pellick,
I think Pellick. Pulak or
both.
Pellick are out. I always get them mixed up. One of them is out.
Injuries, COVID.
Right. So
13-game road trip to start the year.
So and again, they have a great coach. So how good is their process really right now this year? Not.
No,
right?
not.
Do we expect them to be garbage next year?
probably.
No, I don't expect them to be garbage this year.
Yeah, I didn't
Exactly.
expect that. I thought they were going to be one of the best teams.
Well, I mean, did you expect the Flyers to be garbage this year?
No, I wouldn't say they're garbage. I would just
they were
say
playing like garbage.
Yeah, they were playing like garbage, but they just haven't lived up to
the
our
outside
expectations.
I think the outside view is they're garbage.
Well, let me ask you this:
we don't think they're garbage.
If AV was still the coach right now,
they would be garbage.
It'd be a 15-game losing streak.
Potentially.
Probably. It'd probably be almost last.
Any game that they would have won, they probably would have squeaked through Arizona and won like 1-0.
Yeah.
By luck, pretty much.
I mean, you're talking about tank. Like, that's a tank, but not by trading off talent. Like, that's a tank by just like, well, this isn't working, and we're just going to let it play out.
Players don't really care.
Right. Point. And that, I hate that shit.
Yeah.
And, like, the reality is that whatever Yo, and we can just talk about Yo in general. I know we wanted to talk about him. Whatever Yo has planned, he has got to unite this team. And it's not, in my opinion, I think
he already has.
Well, I think he's done to that point. I see some of that for sure. Like, why doesn't anybody say like Jonathan Taves is a bad captain when the
Blackhawks lose?
Thank you. When the Blackhawks,
because of the Cups. That's why.
Of course, but it shows it's not the captain.
No,
it's not the captain's job either.
No, and like everybody used to say Ovechkin was a coach killer, but he was one of the biggest reasons why the Capitals won a cup. Not just because of the play, because they rallied around everybody.
I would say if you have a coach that can't handle high-end talent, unless like it's a severe problem, a guy like Evander Kane, right? Who obviously, again, I don't know the guy, but if your team is going to the organization and going, I will not play on this team if he's here, that's a problem.
And that's an issue.
Right. But as long as like that's not the case, which we know wasn't the case with Voracek, wasn't the case with Patrick, wasn't the case with Myers, all these guys that people want to throw the butt. This was not happening.
Yeah,
so it wasn't
hockey trades at that point. Like you got to make changes. It's sports, right?
But people had that perception that it was like it's always the guys in the locker room. We've been literally watching years of changes, progressive changes every year, and people are still like they're just like, and then there were none, and be like, okay, well, what's the last one left? Now it's Giroux. Get rid of him. That must be. It's like literally, it's your coach's job to unite your team. I
mean, my thought: anybody who's blaming Claude Giroux or Sean Couturier for the reason the Flyers are bad, take them off the team and see how bad that they become.
They'd be even worse.
Yeah. So
maybe that's what people want.
Like, maybe, but that makes no sense. Well, if you want to bottom out, sure. I mean, we've seen Buffalo bottom out for 10 years and draft Jack Eichel. How did that work out for them? Like, there's no guarantee your team's going to become good.
There's
like,
you have a lot of teams bottoming out and not getting anywhere with it.
Yeah, it's like it's a lot of luck. And I mean, people saying, "Oh, Giroux's not a good leader. He's not vocal enough." I mean, we all know that, or it's been rumored that Giroux's more of a lead by example type of guy, and
he's done that clearly.
Yeah, exactly. He's playing great, and there's a lot of people that, he needs to be more vocal. Lead by example isn't enough. Think about Mike Richards. Everybody loved Mike Richards. Well, how was he? He was a lead by example type of guy. He wasn't a rah type of guy.
He was very quiet.
Yeah, everybody seemed to love him, and I mean, Giroux's very similar. He's a great player.
Yeah. What I don't understand is why. Yeah, like what I don't understand is why people make like they know what happens in the room.
They
like
don't.
that stays there. It's for the players, and I just love how everybody's like, oh well, they need to do this and they need to do that. Like shut up. Like nobody, you know what I mean? Like stop making it like what happens in the room, what they say to each other, and all this stuff. Like it just gets old.
It does.
Because we don't know. That's why I like my default, and I brought this up on the podcast last night with you, Chris, and I was talking about workplaces. Like think about your work environments. Like is it when you work in a place, right? And we all have jobs here, and you go to a job and you see an employee who's like really great at his job, right? Like awesome at his job, shows up on time, works late, helps everybody else, knows how to use a computer, knows how to use everything, right? Like all of that stuff, can answer all your questions. And then, the business struggles a little bit. You have like a tough few days. Does everybody go to that best employee and go like, dude, look, we're not doing that well right now. Like
it's your fault.
You're fired.
Yeah. Like, no, it doesn't work that way.
You're the problem here. No, you go to the manager and go, why didn't you hire the right people? Right. Why do they, why did you not instill the right values around here? Why are people coming in late? And like these are things, it's just the reality of it. And that's why coaches get fired all the time. It doesn't mean they're incompetent. They're at the highest level of competition, but what the decisions they make, they trickle the rest of the team. And
it's a trickle down effect.
Yes. And the thing the captain can do, and this is where I would put some on the leadership group, is that they can help reinforce that message. So
but didn't it seem like they had kind of done that though? But not like in that sort of sense, but maybe in the fact like kind of be like, come on, let's do this kind of like, because again, like if they were scoring off of talent, that leads me to believe that they were kind of just like, kind of like a.
Yes, the system sucked.
Yeah.
I brought this up over and over again.
Yeah, and they were kind of, they were scoring off of talent, and to me, it seemed like the message was like, all right, let's just kind of go out and do it.
They gave AV another chance. He lost the room last year, and they
lost it again.
Yeah,
with new players.
We're professionals.
I would say that it's possibly never had it fully gained back. Anyway, like once a coach loses a room, especially in professional sports, and players tune out your message, it's very hard for you to ever go back and people to really believe in what you're doing. And I think, realistically, Fletcher probably should have known that and had his finger on the pulse a little bit better. But
let me ask you this:
what it is at this point, sure.
Let me add to add to that. Do you think that Oscar Lindblom's unfortunate incident, which again, I would much prefer the opposite, that this never happened?
Yes.
But do you think that the only reason that AV really got a hold of that locker room was because of Oscar Lindblom?
I have no idea.
I have no clue.
It's a complete guess.
I don't want to comment because I don't know what goes on in the room. I have no idea what
can
lost.
Speculate. It's definitely possible.
They were struggling.
Think about a rally point.
Well, they were struggling, right? And it again, it doesn't mean like AV was a problem at the time. But like it was a reason for the team to come together. You guys ever see the movie Miracle?
Yeah.
It's like the best hockey movie ever made, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And what I love that because it's like a John Tortorella type of thing in there. But the doctor says to the assistant, I think it's Ramsey, the assistant, he goes, maybe if they're busy hating him, they won't hate each other. Right. And that was like a tenuous situation where like they really didn't like each other and they were trying to come together, but he was trying to find a reason to bring them together. And sometimes that's what a team needs, right? Like it can literally be hitting rock bottom. It can have, one of the most beloved players on the team get cancer. It can be a bad incident that brings people together.
Looking at it, I feel like if you're looking at it from that standpoint,
but they
came together
rough,
probably.
Yeah. But I will say though, they had a rough month of December when it was announced that he had
initially,
cancer.
Yes.
Initially, yeah. But then they turned it around. And they had a good month of January, a good month of February.
And is that credit to AV?
Carried that into I think it's a mix of everything. I think everything went well. I think they got the coach's message. They played well.
So awesome.
They were so good, man.
I missed that so much, dude.
Dude, it's brutal. They were great and they were fun to watch. And I remember there was a legit point of like my coverage in the season where I was like, I would look ahead at the schedule. I'd be like, dude, they can win every game this month. Like with the way that they're playing, the way that we know they can play.
They were winning back-to-back home, not back-to-back, but they were winning home and home games. Like they would go into Columbus, beat Columbus, come home, beat Columbus again.
Yeah, and they would do it in like good fashion. It wasn't like a 2-1 win. Like it was like a 4-3
they did it to
overtime
Boston
win.
too, right?
Yeah. They beat Boston on the road in a shootout. They had some really, really good wins that year, and I mean some good wins. Like they were.
Nobody. If you go back to pre-COVID, and you would tell people that the way the Flyers were playing at that time with that group of players, and again, the team is better on paper today, that group of team would be having a 10-game losing streak and at the bottom, and Carter Hart was playing well, people would be like, nah, that's unlikely.
Yeah.
You wouldn't call it a fool right to your face.
Yeah. It's kind of, well, it just shows how fickle everything is. It really is a shame that we started with AV this year. It really is. It's like, it's hard for me to say that because hindsight's 2020, and I wasn't like, rah, fire the coach in the beginning of the year. I was, like everybody, like, give it a chance.
I remember your initial reaction because as I'm sitting there and I'm down in the basement as I am right now, and we're watching the game, the 9-0 game. You text me and you're like, this is a game the coach can get fired. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, and I didn't want to believe it because I'm like, still do what they did last year.
Yeah.
And you were right all along, essentially. it wasn't. I mean, really, it wasn't rocket science to
I've
figure
seen
that
a lot
out.
of coaches get fired.
A 9-0 game, that's a statement thing, right? Like if you're losing that bad,
and again,
straw that broke the camel's back for him.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we go back and we look at the month of March. They played, I think, 18 games and lost 11 of them, and a couple 6-1, 9-0, 8-3
to the Rangers.
Like they were brutal games that they lose, and the games they'd win were just games that they shouldn't have won.
Yeah,
I think there was a comeback win against Buffalo.
They were down like
twice.
3-0. They were down 3-0, I believe, in that
3-0,
game.
and then they were also down 4-2 at home.
Yeah, and they came back and won. But like
those
back. That's the thing. Like there's only so much desperation wins that you can put together, and I mean that's what I'm hoping that the team kind of stays away from this season. Obviously, we didn't see much of that. I guess I don't know if you would consider the last win against Ottawa desperation. I mean, obviously,
they tied the game pretty quick.
Yeah, they tied the game pretty quick, and obviously the team wants to win. They want to keep their point streak up. It's obviously good that they go into the break on a winning note. I mean, they never knew that was going to be the start of their break. But I think that's a positive to look at. If you're on the team, you could say, hey, like, we're on a good run here. We can keep it going. We're not playing the best teams coming up. And that's what I think is the main thing, is that if they can really, let's say win the next 3 games coming out of the break, they're in good shape. So it's not out of reach yet. And I think a lot of people are kind of approaching the rest of this season like it might be out of reach, but realistically it isn't. And if they have the goaltending continuing to perform at the level that it is, and they can take advantage of that, and get a couple players back from injury too, I mean, they're going to have a real shot. And just to speak to that Montreal game, I think it's a shame that they couldn't pull the win out just because Carter Hart played so well. You really don't want to waste those performances, especially against a team that's not very good in Montreal. So,
goddamn shame. So let me ask you this, like, I'm not going to mention, let's not put Ryan Ellis in this camp because we don't have a return date for him. And while Fletcher was optimistic about Ellis coming back, after the break, he essentially said, we're going to reevaluate after. It's
on the fence, I think, with him. It's all by day situation.
Right. But I think also, like, even with the time off, right, I don't think that it's like, oh, Ryan Ellis will be playing when we get back from the break.
Yeah, he's not very
I think it's like maybe he'll start skating with the team.
I think Brassard will be back.
Yeah, Brassard should be back.
So let's say Brassard, Frost, Hayes, obviously. I'm forgetting some. Oh, Willman.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if Willman will be in the lineup if that's the case. I
don't know if Willman or Frost will be, or Willman or Hayes. Hayes was the most recent, so probably not. And Frost, maybe.
Yeah. That's a good question. That's a good question. Because I don't know how long they're required to,
I think
it's 2 weeks.
It's either 2 weeks or it's like
7 days.
I think it's 7 days and then like multiple negative tests or something.
Well, didn't all the rules go back to last year?
Oh, you're
because
right.
Because if they did, then it would be 2 weeks.
Yeah, it may be.
Because all the COVID protocol stuff went back to last year.
Honestly, if that's the case, I expect more games to get postponed.
Probably.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
what do we? Go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, I just can't see how. If you already have all those other, you might as well just postpone the rest. Get this through the rest of this month, and then try to see if the teams could get healthy. Because there's only 8 teams in the league right now, as of today, that don't have a COVID case.
And then
out of the 32.
Also, the Canadian border is a thing to watch because there's no travel between the 2 teams. So how are you going to play out a schedule? I mean, from the Canadian perspective, I'm in Toronto. I would say they'll probably get special exemptions for those Canadian teams to travel because that's what they did with the Blue Jays in the MLB. They were traveling back and forth and playing, at their arena in Toronto. So I'm assuming that's what they're going to do with the Canadian teams to get things, kind of finished for the schedule. But it's really all up in the air. It's all fluid, right? So who really knows?
Wait, the Flyers have a game on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday?
Is that possible?
Am I reading that right?
No.
Not
it
on
should
Friday.
Be Wednesday,
Saturday. Wednesday, Thursday, and then Saturday.
Saturday.
Okay, I read that wrong.
Is their first game back in Seattle, correct?
Seattle, San Jose, and then Los Angeles.
Okay.
It's supposed to be the Sunday, right? The 26th?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I'm wrong.
So, I mean, they have winnable games coming up, and they can really get back into things if they do win.
Seattle is the 29th. San Jose is the 30th. LA is the 1st.
Yeah.
Okay, I read that.
And then I'm the 3rd.
Oh,
for the 4th.
Dude, I can't fucking read right now.
And then they're back against the Penguins playing Eastern Conference teams after that.
Right, and the games we missed will be allocated. So I think there's a good chance that the games till the end of the month will get postponed.
Yeah, it's possible. Then they're not going to the Olympics, so they have a kind of a little bit of leeway.
Right, exactly. That's and that's why I think that, because I think in their mind, you out, Chris?
2 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Later, buddy. Chris got to go to work. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks a lot.
Oh no, you got
Take care.
hockey, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Enjoy hockey. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks. Yep.
All right.
Thanks, guys. Sorry.
All right. Later. No worries. Yeah, man. It's just like till the end of the year. I maybe I'm kind of like wishful thinking for it a little bit, because I'm like, I don't really want to see guys like out because of COVID. And then, you're talking about the risk of intermingling people. Like at this point, like why not just take to the end of the month? You have a gap, like give teams a reset, let people get healthy, let people isolate from COVID, like let the players be like, hey, you guys are just going home. Like it's all you
relatively healthy to the point where you can actually ice a roster, because look at Calgary. I think they have like 18 players.
Is it 18?
Yeah, 18. The Leafs have 11.
And they don't have the adjusted cap this year. They have to put that in place too now.
So I don't know if they're going to be bringing the taxi squad stuff back. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what occurs if the outbreaks continue, because they did say they're going to try to play an 82 game schedule, and
I think they will. I think they will.
I think they'll get to it. They might have to add in days maybe at the end of the season if they can't make things work, because I know that 2-week break period for the Olympics, I mean, there could be concerts, other things going on in those arenas. So I don't know exactly where they might play.
Well,
but
let me ask you this. You think there's a chance they might push back the playoffs maybe?
Yeah, I could see that.
Right? Because that's not scheduled.
No, that makes perfect sense to me, because if you have a 2-week period, yeah, you're right. If you have a 2-week period where the Olympics are, and those buildings that you would typically play in are scheduled for other events, there's really nothing you can do.
And they just kind of went through that prior, right? Where they and honestly, for the fans, like it's not good for the players. Like it sucks for the players. I mean, they do get a larger gap here in the middle, but for us, it's like if the playoffs go in another 2 weeks, right? It's essentially beginning of June, right? And I guess they'll do the draft. They'll probably keep everything the same after that. But they do have an opportunity there to push the playoffs back. It's not the end of the world.
No, you could afford a week or two just to make sure you make the games up. That's for sure.
Honestly, I think that sounds kind of stupid, and maybe it won't work out that way, but it could actually be one of the best things that happened to the Flyers. Like I think
for the Flyers, I think this break is great, because as we were just alluding to, I mean, throughout this whole episode so far, is they're getting killed by injuries, not just this past couple of weeks, but just the whole season in general. And, the fact that we are naive to think that there aren't players on this team that are dealing with underlying things that we don't even know about. I mean, Couturier obviously is dealing with injuries. I would bet that Provorov, I mean, he's a warrior out there. He's
without
probably
a doubt.
With some sort of nagging thing.
Without a doubt.
That's what I'm saying. So some time off to just get back to, at least relatively
probably
close
Risto also, probably Braun.
Relatively close to 100%. You don't understand, or a lot of people don't understand how, good that'll be for the players just to get back kind of to where, I mean, they should be. Because when you're playing hurt, you're not playing up to your capabilities, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's a factor.
And shout out to Kevin Connaughton, who, quite frankly, I think he's been
good on the third.
He's playing. He's been excellent.
Yes, I agree.
And I don't mean like Sealer level where he's just like he's a guy where I'm like, okay, I feel vastly
if the lineup's healthy and you have Ellis back, I mean, like I'd play him over Yandel at this point.
That's kind of what I'm saying is like I can see a situation where Yandel gets benched over Connaughton. I don't think that's going to happen.
Me neither.
I really don't. But I could see a case where people are calling for it.
It's a tough situation because I mean,
if you play Yandel with Braun, it's also a different pairing.
Yeah, it is. It might be better.
Braun's better than Connaughton.
Yeah, better results. So maybe you're kind of sheltering Yandel in that situation, and you're not going to be really putting him out against maybe. Or
they're using him on PP. They're using him on power play 1. Yeah. Connaughton's really just being used on like the third penalty
pair.
killing.
Yeah, I've seen him on the penalty kill a couple times. If like key penalty killers would take penalties, they kind of sub him in.
But it's nice to know he's there, and it seems like if they do get healthy on that back end, it seems like Nick Sealer will go play for the Phantoms.
What do you think about Yandel? What do you think about Yandel? Like, would you take him out of the lineup in your opinion, just based off his play? No,
I do think he's had some moments where I'm like, obviously that one goal. It's interesting because like that goal that was I clearly in my opinion was on him. The way he was playing that. Like that stuff is avoidable. Like that's not like, oh, you don't have it anymore, Yandel. It's like, dude, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, you didn't make a right decision. Like, he went back, he was lackadaisical, kind of retrieving the puck, then he just got pounced on with his back towards a guy forechecking him. Most players are gonna be able to recover in that situation.
And my question is, like, did people on the ice warn him? You know,
did
he think he had time? Because he acted like he had time.
Yeah, I don't know if he thought he had time. I just think he didn't, because it's a power play. So a lot of times the teams that stated their penalty killing structure, they might not attack you that aggressively, which the Ottawa player did. I can't remember exactly who it was.
It was the young guy, Mercer. No, that's
New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah. What the hell's his name? He's one of their better younger guys. The name
maybe Formanton or something.
Yeah, Formanton. Yep.
Yeah, he's really fast, but. I mean, if you have a guy that's coming bearing down on you and your back's kind of towards the puck, he's going to be able to strip you 9 times out of 10 if you don't know he's coming.
But it's like his body language was just like.
That's the thing that's concerning to
whatever.
me. That's the thing.
But he's not that guy.
No, and that's what I'm wondering. I mean, is maybe the mistakes that have kind of been compounding, because you've seen him get beat out in his own zone where he gets forecheck, loses the puck. Is that kind of compounding for him, and he's kind of saying, "Here we go again." And that's kind of a mentality the team wants to get away from in general. So
I think he's been better with Connaughton, though.
Yeah, he has been. With Sealer was an absolute mess, both of them. They both were not very good together. Connaughton's more of a stabilizer.
The team wasn't playing as well. I hate being so harsh on Sealer because he actually did all right in the beginning.
Yeah, that's true. With more structure. I just wonder, I mean, if we see a couple more like really bad mistakes like that from Yandel, if you see the team kind of think, hey, do we have another option? Personally, I think they're going to let him get to that streak. And then once he hits it, I mean, at that point, I think we'll see other people rotate in. And then, I mean, Phil Kessel's probably going to catch him anyway. So, I mean, maybe it's just a thing. Okay, you could say he had the streak at a point, and then he's probably no longer going to keep it. Kessel's likely going to play longer than him at this point. He's younger, so he's most likely going to be the holder of that eventually. I just wonder if Yo would think about maybe once Ellis gets back, if Connaughton is kind of okay, we'll have him in and kind of rotate him and Yandel, just because he is an older guy. Maybe giving him less games will have his performance be better. It's possible, right?
I think he just kind of is what he is. I think might be his last year in the NHL.
I could see that, yeah.
You know what I mean? I think the reality is that he's probably just going to play out the rest of the season. Like, he's not that bad because he brings an offensive element. It's the defensive side, but I want to see how.
But he's never been the best defensive.
Right. Well, that's what I want to say. I want to see how the team plays defensively. For like, if everybody's rolling on D and he's the obvious weak point every time, he's gonna get benched. Yeah, like, there's no way around.
That's what I was saying. Like, if he,
that's what happened to him in Florida.
Yeah, if he constantly is, if mistakes are constantly happening while he's on the ice that are causing backbreaking goals and the team's losing due to that, eventually it's going to add up so much to the fact where Yost, because they have no choice. And that's just what happens. But maybe, like you were saying, if you get him with Braun in more of a sheltered role, it might be some better results that we'll see. And it's hard to know until everybody's in their proper place. Because still, as we're saying, you take Ellis out and everybody's still slotted incorrectly technically. So yeah, it plays a factor. It's a trickle-down effect.
Yeah, and I think next year the roles for Zamula and York will be heavily considered at the NHL level. So you really just need Yandel to just stay here. Even with the struggles at the minor league level, like Zamula and York won't be down there forever. No. Especially York, like he's just a more polished player. I know people, I don't agree with most people's opinion on York. I think they're just taking their time with him. So I think he's, bound to come up.
He is eventually. Most defensemen take time and need AHL time. Not everybody's Cale Makar. So
I want to throw something random at you. Sure. I want to go off topic and then I want to go into lineups real quick. So did you say Phil Kessel or did I just hear that randomly?
No, I did say Phil Kessel.
Okay.
He's close to beating the streak or close to the streak as well for the Ironman.
Yeah. So the reason I'm thinking Phil Kessel, okay, he plays for Arizona. They're obviously tanking.
Yes.
Now, they're going to have trouble attracting talent, right? They might actually want the cap space.
Yeah, it's possible.
For next year, because I don't think that they're
the floor,
Yeah, exactly. And I'm looking at a guy like JVR. Is there any chance that you could trade the in-season JVR for Phil Kessel?
What's Kessel's cap hit? The ceiling.
It's $8 million a year. So
And
it's a
JVR
year.
7, right?
Yeah, his actual dollar amount is $6 million, which I think is the same as JVR.
Yeah.
JVR is an extra year, right? On his contract. Phil Kessel does not, right? This is the end of his contract. So I could see people being like, well, why would Arizona take an extra year of contract?
Yeah, they're not going to be able to sign a $7 million player to get to the floor anyway.
Exactly. They're having trouble. They're going to have trouble getting players over there. And you have a guy who's locked up for 1 year less than his actual cap hit. And you're going to lose Phil Kessel anyway. Like there's zero chance he's re-signing with you guys regardless, right? So do you see that as being a possible scenario where the Flyers could pick up a Phil Kessel for a JVR?
That's a tough situation because
it's not a reasonable ask, in my opinion. It sounds kind of far. Like normally I would be like,
it does sound far-fetched. Like, I mean, personally, if you told me right now, would you make that trade? Just me, myself? Yes, I would make that trade because Kessel makes the power play better. JVR is supposed to make the power play better, but
Kessel's a better player.
Yeah, he's a better player, better goal scorer, better pure shooter, which obviously is something the Flyers
more physical.
Need. I don't think in-season trades like that with so much money involved, I just think it's so rare. The chance that you're going to see something like that's probably not going to happen. Would I like to see it happen? Yes, but I put it 20% chance. Probably lower.
Yeah, I think it might even be lower. But I'm just like looking at it, I'm like, oh, maybe there's a situation where
it would make sense for the Flyers, and it would make sense for Arizona.
We'd have to add.
I just think it's more of an off-season move, but obviously in the off-season he's a free agent anyway, so that at that point it's whatever. It's a moot point.
I can't see us signing him in the off-season.
No.
But
for a
I was
trade
thinking
like this, then
I was thinking for in-season because I mean Arizona is clearly not very interested in competing this year.
No,
probably
the next few seasons. To be honest.
I don't know if JVR has much value to them. I just don't know what kind of guys they're going to be bringing in the off season, even next year.
How are they going to meet the cap floor? And they're trying to trade Jacob Chychrun as well. Like, who are they going to sign?
Right, and this is a $7 million cap hit with a $5 million actual.
I think it would be attractive to them. Salary. I think it'd be attractive to Arizona. I personally don't think Fletcher would want to do the trade. I think we, as a fan base, not shitting on JVR, but a lot of the fans dislike JVR. And his play, and he hasn't been playing well, but I feel like JVR in the locker room and just through management's view, I think they view him differently than we do.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Kessel, I mean, he's been on the decline too. It's not like he
hasn't been
rocking the world or anything. Actually, you'd argue that JVR had a better season than him last year for sure.
He did.
Actually, Kessel hasn't done too bad. He had 17 points in 29 games. 43 points in 56 games. And then with Arizona the first year, he had 38 points in 70 games. And even with the Penguins, he was killing it, obviously. Yeah, it just shows the difference about being on a good team and a bad team.
So no center to play with.
Well, that's kind of what my thought is that like we're going to lose him anyway. So maybe it's one of those things where it's like, hey, maybe Arizona would value a JVR. You know what I mean? Because they have a team full of young guys. They're like JVR is not signing there in the offseason. No. Like most veterans are not going to want to, not for next year, maybe the following year, but they're obviously tanking. And most veterans are not going to want to go there unless they overpay.
They want to win,
Right. And they're not going to.
The money's ridiculous.
Right. And they're not going to give JVR $7 million, but they might give a guy like him $5 million or $4 million. Right. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking in my head. I was like, maybe they would take his contract for that extra year.
It's a good thought. Well,
it's a weird one.
Yeah. Speaking of weird things to throw out, I have a stat that's interesting that, I didn't think was true. I'm not the one who found the stat. I saw it on Twitter. So shout out to Alexander Appleyard for that. He's awesome. Great
friend
tweets.
Of the show for sure.
Everybody follow him if you don't. Travis Konechny has more even strength points for this franchise than Daniel Briere. Would you have thought that?
Wait, say that again.
Travis Konechny has 181 even strength points as a Flyer. Danny Briere only had 180, and Konechny's only played 14 extra games than Briere. He's still 48 points behind Briere in overall scoring because of the power play. He's a way better power play player. But when I saw that stat, I was like, really? That's surprising to me.
And how old was Briere when he played here? He was in his prime.
In his between 28 and 32.
Yeah, he was in his prime, and
everybody's saying Konechny's terrible this season. He's not doing well. I mean, he hasn't been the most consistent, but he's not terrible.
I think unless Konechny is being traded for like Hurdle,
yeah,
or
like a center where you need a position that's gonna shore up your depth there.
It's another top young player.
Exactly.
I doubt he's going anywhere. Or if he's in a package to get a top pick, or like I doubt it. Like I think the organization views him as a top 6 forward on this team with potential of being a legitimate top player.
Yeah.
I'll say it. I don't care if people don't agree with me. 24 years old is not enough to say a player is developed. No. I don't buy it. I'll never buy it. I see very little evidence of it. Just because you can point out some superstars that developed at 24, I can show you a bunch that didn't.
And the thing is with Konechny is you can tell he cares on the ice. Like when he's playing bad, you know that he cares. Not to say that other players don't care, but there's obviously, with certain players, they might not have as much, motivation to improve or get better, which I think he does. I think
Vasili,
he was,
No, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, let's look at, this is what I bring up all the time. If you see a guy and you're like, oh, he's struggling, and the rest of the team is struggling, it's a moot point. It's a moot argument. If you see that the team is rolling, but the guy is struggling, then you have a case to make.
Then it's valid, exactly.
As soon as the Flyers started playing well, who's one of the first players who were noticeable? Konechny. He's literally been like a point per game player since then, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I think he's great. I think he's having a good season. He could be playing better, but I just want to bring that up because people are saying, I'm hearing, the trade Konechny, we should have traded him in the offseason, stuff things like that. But like, who are you going to get that would have been better? This team already has problems scoring. Who's going to replace that production?
The only thing that I could have seen to be like, I would have potentially traded Konechny for Jack Eichel. Now, Jack Eichel has a ridiculous cap hit.
Yeah,
which I would argue is also worth it. But that's the reason you trade Konechny. Because obviously it's not just Konechny.
Yeah. It's other pieces, which makes you kind of think about, is it worth it?
Right. It's like Konechny, Frost in a first or something,
Exactly.
Man, I'd be so hesitant to move York.
But that's what teams like that are going to ask for, right?
Yes.
If you're trading a number one center hasn't even hit his prime yet, because Eichel's 23 or 24 as well.
He's
it's going to take
it's
going to take a huge package to do that. And that's the thing. I mean, Konechny's a guy who cares. He was in the Philly area all offseason training, working on his game. You can't give up on a player at 24 years old. What do Flyers fans always harp back to? We gave up on Justin Williams too early. When did they trade him? He was 24.
Yeah.
We gave up on Patrick Sharp too early. When did they trade him? He was 24. Don't trade unless he's a finished product and okay, let's say Travis Konechny was 29 and he's not doing the best or he's a lot older in his career, then I could validly say, okay.
Look how long it took to move Ghost.
Exactly.
And even that didn't work out the way everybody thought it would.
No. But to be fair,
trade it again.
To be fair, I'd say on Arizona, just because of the usage he's getting, like he's getting 20 minutes a night and playing like first power play on really, really good teams. Is he going to be getting 20 minutes a night?
I mean, he was getting that here. This is like kind of what I was saying is like under Hackstall in the beginning, he actually did well. He had some very good seasons under Hackstall. Under AV,
no.
And by the way, he led our defense in points last year.
He wasn't given the playing time under AV. They just didn't like his style of play.
Right.
It's just how it was.
But this, I'll keep going back to this. I fucking hate that shit.
Yeah.
I hate that so much.
Let a guy at least show something. Let him show that. Give him a chance.
It's not even that. It's like, dude, you don't have a choice. Yeah. These are the players on your team. Your goal is to get the best out of them.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe that is,
but that's a coach's tactic, right? They'll bench a player or not play him and then say, well, I can't work. This player just doesn't work for me in my system. And what did Fletcher do this offseason? He tried to accommodate AV, and how did that work out?
Exactly. So, and it never works. No. It never works. I've never seen a GM go out and be like, oh, I'm going to get – usually if you see that, the coach is getting fired next.
Yeah. The only time
I've never seen it work.
The only time I'll harp back to a GM actually getting players for his coach and it working is Pat Quinn for like 2003 for the Leafs, but he was the GM and the coach. So
yeah, and also didn't work out for him. He eventually got fired too.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the Leafs were good teams. But I'm saying unless it's that
Talking about the Phil
situation.
Kessel situation.
No, I'm talking about like this is a long time ago, like Matt Sundin, like 2000. It's like
okay.
2003. This is very, very long time ago.
Who would that have been? Matt Sundin was on
Matt
that team?
Sundin, McGillney,
Who did he go
Jerry
out and get?
Roberts. Just a lot of different players that. But I'm just saying, like, unless like a coach is able to go out and like, you know, himself and say, okay, I'm getting these players for me, like I'm the GM. Nothing like that is ever going to work, because if you're a player on the team, you're going to say, well, when I start to play bad, are they going to do that to me too?
Well, but my point is, like, 80% of the time, like Mike Sullivan, right? The Penguins, like his roster keeps getting changed over.
Yeah,
he loses.
You don't see him complaining.
Right? Never once. And not only that, he gets the most out of every one. And it's like,
yeah.
You know, like you're not always John Cooper, who has like a luxury that every player you bring in is like super talented, because Yzerman did a ridiculous job stocking that team. Their drafting was ridiculous, and now he's doing it for Detroit. But like, you know, I see that stuff and I'm just like, I'm just tired of the excuses. So let's end on this, because I do have to get out of here pretty soon.
Sure, no worries.
You look at the lineup healthy. And let's assume the Flyers will be healthy. I don't know exactly what the COVID protocols are.
We'll be positive. I have faith that they'll be healthy.
Okay.
We'll go into that. Let's
be positive. So, like, how do you see the lineup like breaking out? Like Giroux, assumingly staying in the middle. Let's say Brassard comes back. You got Frost back. You know, let's assume that Ellis is not back in this situation.
Yeah, because I feel like he's gonna take time.
I just don't get any sense of confidence from the organization at this point.
I mean, we'll start with the defense first. I think keep it the same. Obviously, you're not going to break up Sanheim and Ristolainen. They're the best pairing. And just like the article I wrote today, go read it on FlyersNittyGritty.com. I was saying Sanheim, you know, is the best defenseman on the team in my eyes, just through his play in the last little while after, you know, AV's firing. So you're not going to break up that pairing. You're probably going to leave Provorov and Braun together just to have some level of consistency. And I don't think Yandel or Connaughton would do Provorov any favors on that top pair as well. And then you're going to likely leave Connaughton and Yandel together. So we'll leave the defense as is. I mean, I would say you have Couturier, Farabee, Konechny. I actually like that, that Yo inserted Farabee on the top line. He's a top line player in my eyes. And I think Konechny and Farabee are both really fast and very skilled. So they really play off each other well. And they open up a lot of space for Couturier to kind of drive to the net down the middle. I like Giroux and Atkinson. You can see them developing chemistry. It's tough, though. I don't know if I would place Frost back if he's healthy, or keep Lindblom there, because you see Lindblom's playing well, but you saw the chemistry between Frost and Giroux. So that's the tough one. I mean, I'm inclined to keep Lindblom there, like you're saying, and then kind of maybe put Frost with Hayes and JVR, and he might be able to open some ice up for them just with his vision and his creativity. And you have the fourth line is
Brassard, Brown, and
McEwen. And then
anybody?
Willman, I mean, has played well. I don't know if he's going to displace Brown.
Yeah.
He's not going to displace Brown, I don't think. So
no. And
he'll probably go back down.
I think he's waiver exempt too.
Yeah. So what do you think? Would you keep those, or any changes to that?
Honestly, that's exactly what I would do. I would do pretty much exactly what you said. I would want Frost to be with Hayes, to allow Frost to be the dynamic element, since Hayes is kind of, you know, he's obviously not as quick as Foot because of the surgery. He's just going to take him time.
I think he'd help JVR a lot, because I noticed JVR plays with a good passer. Usually he has a lot more success.
Yeah.
So.
And I think Frost on the second line, it's a little bit undersized. Lindblom is stronger. He's about to get in the corners. He's better defensively.
Frees up pucks.
Yeah. And I think Giroux and Atkinson, like, there's your dynamic elements on that line. I agree with you know me, I already think Farabee is a future superstar. Though
I agree too.
Not everybody agrees with us, but I think he's a future superstar.
They don't know what they're watching though, in that case.
I think
Look at that. I don't know if sorry to cut you off. I don't know if anybody saw the video of Farabee's practice shootout. Yeah, we were talking about it obviously before.
He's stupid talented.
He is,
and he's two-way.
He's out of this world. He plays defense in the right spots. He's gonna be a good one.
He's from the same cluster of players as Trevor Zegras, who I think everybody is very highly. thinks very highly of that kid.
Yeah.
As I do, for sure. I love
He's
Zegers.
going to be a great one.
He's amazing. So I really like that top line again. Farabee's better defensively than Konechny. Konechny is also a playmaker. Couturier does it all. So you kind of have a nice balance on that top line and defensively sound. And Konechny is not the best defensively, but he is like
he's getting
aggressive.
Better.
He's also aggressive, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that makes up for the fact that he's not
and
the best
speed
defensively.
Helps too on the back check.
Yeah. He's also a good playmaker. So you get like a dynamic of everything on there. And I think it's a good idea to put Frost with a group that do that. I assume that Brassard will play the left side, McEwen will play the right, and Brown will continue playing center because Brown's better at faceoffs than Brassard. Yeah. And I think he's done well in the defensive
Brassard
role.
himself has kind of said that at this point he wants to be a winger versus center.
Yeah.
I mean, so
and if that doesn't work out and maybe Frost gets sent back down, I can't see it because I think he's played well.
He's an NHL player. There's not much else for him to learn in the AHL. So.
And Thompson's out for a while anyway, so I can't see coaching staff using him at all.
So one last question before we break out of here. Do you or would you try Sanheim on the first power play in place of Yandel?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would have done that years ago.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I'm baffled by the fact that
they don't try that. Power play. Yeah,
he's one of the smoothest skating defensemen.
Yeah,
and he is the smoothest skating defenseman
on the team. I'd say on the team now.
Maybe Ellis.
Now that Ellis when he's healthy, but now that Ghost was traded, I would say arguably it was him beforehand. But now with Sanheim, it's obviously him, and I just think that he would be really good keeping pucks in, and just his puck movement would be a lot more decisive, maybe quicker than Yandel. So. We were talking about how when, Vigneault got fired that, what was it that, the power play started to kind of show an uptick with Yo. Last couple of games, nothing to show for it. So maybe a switch up there. I'd like to see Sanheim kind of get tried on the
I definitely think he should be tried on the power play. I also don't share the opinion of everybody where I still believe in using Provorov on the power play. I don't agree with people. And I think that the power play needs to keep rolling for Provorov to look good. I think he keeps it simpler, and that's what I said. If you look at the way Sanheim plays, just his footwork along the blue line, that's
would be a help.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have a hard shot, but he has an accurate shot.
And it gets through to the net.
Yeah, he tends to miss the net though, and that's why Provorov tends to play the power play unit
because he actually gets the puck.
He gets the puck on net. It's a simpler shot. He's not as dynamic offensively, but he doesn't try he is, but he doesn't try that stuff when he's the last man back on the point.
No, and there's a reason because you don't want to get caught, and then that's a backbreaker. So.
Yes, so I'm interested in continuing those guys. I don't think Risto is really though. I don't think he's that bad at it. I don't think he's a guy who should be really on the power play that often. But we'll see. We're not really healthy at the moment, and I think until Ryan Ellis gets back.
I mean, personally, I would say if Ellis is back healthy, I think they'll try him out on the first power play. I think that's their preference.
I 100% agree with you, and I think they'll go with Provorov and Sanheim on the second unit, or Yandel, I guess. Yeah. If Yandel's off that power play, he's at risk of getting benched. So
I would agree.
All right, let's end on that one. Vasili, you got anything coming out you want to tell people about?
I had an article actually go out today on FlyersNittyGritty.com about Travis Sanheim and his potential to be the best defenseman on the team currently. I should have some articles likely early next week as well, so keep an eye out for that on FlyersNittyGritty.com. You can follow me on Twitter at FlyerItUp and go to FlyersNittyGritty.com to check out all our articles because we have great writers and they're always putting up some great stuff.
Awesome. All right. Another successful episode. Thank you, everybody. Please like and subscribe. Thank you to our sponsor, Joe's Steaks. Did I just say the wrong thing? I said Joe's Steaks. Do not buy from Joe's. Don't fucking do it. Buy from Steaks on South on 3rd Street. I'm in a rush, so that's why I'm screwing up. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Like, subscribe, share our stuff out. It's a humongous help. And remember, always stay great.